Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the live stream. I'm doing it through the phone. I didn't put it in the title, but this episode, I guess you can call it Concerning Advanced Civilization. So, today I observed something and I felt like it's worth talking about. I was thinking about human corruption, human indecency. And I was thinking about what is it that is causing a civilization or hindering a civilization from its advancement. There we go. To be honest, it's the sense of insufficiency, the sense of incompleteness. Human beings are a container of energy. It's yeah, thank you. Pretty much, the human being is an energetic event, and the human mind records landscapes, and in some sense, the mind is a sort of second life, in the sense that when a person sees something in their mind before they act, they respond. I remember I was passing the school, and on the windows of the school, it had this saying where it said, "See, think, act." And I thought about it, how even though we have this concept of thinking, what it is actually living internally before we externalize. Recently I've been seeing the Peaky Blinders. And really, it's all about, fulfillment from different levels. I actually think that we're not designed as creatures to want peace. We are designed to want advancement. Because we get bored from a static image, right? That means even if somebody was like, you ask someone, what do you want? And they're like, okay, I want this, I want that. And you gave them that specific thing they want. They won't be content because the mind is expansive and it's creative. Our minds are like conquerors. Our attention receives reality. In a lot of my own development of, or how should I say it, like in how I've understood reality so far. When I was younger, I was looking for algorithms, you know. I'm proud to say I was one of the first people in my family and, lineage of family members to solve the Rubik's Cube when I was young. And honestly, what it was it's like I could finish 2/3 of it, and the top layer, it's like there were algorithms for it, right? And when you look at human intelligence, if I don't know what the percentage would be, but for a lot of people, they're looking for workable algorithms, and there's a sense of absence of creativity in creating new strategies for things to work. Anyways, my conclusion so far has been that all human life is beginning from a point of attention. And it's as if our attention, what consciousness is, it's like the central point, and reality is gravitating towards it the moment we're awake. So really what it is that we are spheres of attention. Reality gravitates towards it, and the memory's role, the job of the memory, is to respond to the reality it sees. You know, I'll never forget this. Honestly, I forget the author's name and the name of the book. But there was this book written by this psychologist where he was talking about memory. I remember the metaphor, and he was like, when you look at human memory, it's kind of like you have a cube of Jello, and then you pour a spoon of hot ink, and then this kind of creates a sort of dent and framework on it, and then you pour another spoon of hot ink, and then it goes over the previous dent in the Jello. But really what the idea is it's like some sort of creative process where realities are fighting, actually. Not in a savage way, but in the sense that it's like the world, or how would I say it? It's like different senses of the world are fighting to be in the driver's seat of our attention. Now, if we are a moment of attention, the spherical awareness, you look at the human animal, and its relationship to itself is based on its environment. The further back you go in history, before the development of a conscious mind, it was just unconscious reaction to the environment. As if the environment was pouring the hot ink, on the Jello of the human mind. It's something funny I gotta share with the viewers. Sometimes when I give these talks, I can see who's like watching them or not, and when I say a sentence, I can see who leaves. But anyways, I'm a person who I have concluded that in front of my eyes there's a physical reality. It's a public server where we're all like multiplayer online characters, but it's in regards to a physical sense. And behind our eyes, it's our private server of reality. A person can display themselves in their outer realms so differently than how they're held. An example of this would be the story of, I believe it was King Jenica in Vedic thought, where this dude was a king. Like, just take that in, he was a king, and he dreams that he's a beggar, and he freaks out. And so it's as if in his inner life, he found sages and all this to come and help him. Why? Because he had this view that it's like, could my actions be leading me towards an inferior position, even though I'm holding a superior position in the outer realms, right? It's kind of remarkable, you can see somebody who's strong in the outer realms, but they're weak behind their eyes, and you can see someone who's very strong behind their eyes, but in the outer realms, they find themselves in a weak position or a weak display. Like, anyways. So, concerning advanced civilizations, I look at human beings, and we all have some sort of perception or inner perception of ourselves. And if that isn't met, we get emotional. It's as if behind our eyes, a person wants the world, but in front of it, they're just a little part of it. Now, there are factors, It's like the quote's not coming to me now, but I remember reading this quote that as long as people are hungry, or people in society or in different classes of society feel they are insufficient, or they don't have enough, dictatorships will rise, right? And even in my recent travels, I've observed human nature in such a way where, I've wondered what is it that inside the human being that makes their own decency not enough, right? The ancient yogis, they would say, or I shouldn't say ancient yogis, I mean the Buddha, he would say desire is the source of suffering. And the challenge is that if a human doesn't desire, they can't actually live a physical life. If a person gets rid of their desires, then they're content in the moment. And it's like this strange thing that it's like a desireless state is like a photograph that a person is content with. But a state of desire is a sort of an endless dynamic, requirement for more dimensions. Really what it is that the human intelligence is a dimension hunter. It's hunting for dimensions. Now I think about corruption, I think about evil, and of course there's this line from the Batman movie where that old dude, what's his name? Alfred. Alfred looks at Batman and says, some people want to see the world burn. Sure, there could be some people who have identified with chaos to the degree that they don't want to care for the consequence of their action. But I think a majority of the population, if given a chance, that means if tomorrow somebody came and said, hey, human beings, take this juice, immortal juice, and you'll be immortal. If people were immortal, then their value systems would shift in such a way where they wouldn't care for cruelty. It could be something where there'd be chaos for like thousands of years, and an immortal being would get bored with it. Then there'd be order. For 1,000 years, a group of immortal beings would care, but eventually, because the realm changes, there can't be a sort of contentment of an acceptance of a specific state. This is the challenge of it's like a bunch of people running up a mountain and they're looking for peace, right? They're looking for contentment. Now, if they stop running up the mountain, they will feel like, okay, my desires are gone, I feel peaceful in this moment, but their sense of progress in the outer realm stops. There's loads of, I would say, spiritual-minded people who they think that spirituality, it's next to, Sir Buddha. But it's that they think that in stopping their expansion in the outer realms, their inner realms are content. It's as if it's a sort of peace where they actually stop existing as a, let's say, egoic position. There's this guy named Said Nursi. I believe he's a Turkish mystic. He had this quote where he's I don't remember exactly, but he's saying something in the lines of he's saying something in the lines that I'm not just some random being that has appeared. I'm a traveler with duties, with responsibilities, right? And this is going to say that more than peace being a state where it's in the outer realms, everybody's the same, everybody's cloned. It's more like the fulfillment of the energy of the being in regards to what it wants to do here, right? As if what I'm trying to suggest is, in an advanced civilization, the rule the person has is going to be what brings them peace. It's like if we define, let's say there's a soccer game, okay, and there's different players on the field, and imagine that the coach comes and says that, or the coach only praises those who score a goal, right? The striker. And now, imagine the whole soccer team. There's a goalie, there's a defender, there's a mid laner, but all of these guys are like, no, it's like we won't have peace until we score a goal. Even the goalkeeper's like, I gotta score a goal or I'm nothing. you know? And that actually destroys the team if the goalkeeper is running to score a goal. So it's more like every being, accepting a certain position, playing their part, and then seeing the expansion of the whole system. And then, I guess in certain cases, based on how much desire they have, they can change roles. There's this goalie. Honestly, I'm forgetting names right now, but he's known as the goalkeeper who made the scorpion save in soccer and football. And this goalkeeper was known at the end of his career to have scored 32 goals, right? And his teammates were like, buddy, why are you in the goal? Why are you in the net? Just like... I don't know. There are moments where I feel that as long as we're physical beings, we won't be content in the outer realms. It's like the moment you see something better, a person may forget what they already have. What I'm trying to say is that to expect civilization to just be kind, or to expect it to be like pure anarchy where there's cruelty, it's like none of them suffices. It's a dynamic system. And so it's as if people should start thinking about world peace not as a static image, but more like how do we create a movie where or how do we create a sort of game where all the participants feel satisfied? Like, in pretty much I'll share this story. It's like I got onto this cab and I reach a destination. This is in I guess sort of third world country or developing country. And it's like the cab had a meter, but the person was saying like overpricing like the whole thing, and the person was getting angry. And I was just looking at that person's psychology, and I'm like, this person, his sense of lack is motivating him towards deception, right? They say like a lot of good people, or like these saints, they all get like martyred or something. But I think really what it is that it's really those who are content with their flow in life, right? And those who are not, right? And eventually what happens is that those who are content get crushed by those who are not content, right? So it's more like a design of the... Sorry guys, let me... It's like either we gotta create a system that satisfies like 8 billion creatures with different DNAs and brains and perceptions and cultural, conditioning, and how, like, based on how they've sculpted themselves in this life. or we stop being physical beings. Like, what's the option? We either embrace the wilderness of nature, and it's like, imagine in the future, you know, all governments are like, okay, you're all wild animals, you know. You know, I think what the issue could be is that we are multidimensional beings, but in front of our eyes, we're living in one world. And because we're living in one world, it's kind of like multidimensional beings have to adjust themselves to a singular reality. It's like putting one glass of water and having like 10 people drink it. You know, if you share the water, nobody's thirst is going to be satisfied. You know, if one person drinks it, the rest are going to kill him, you know? So what it is like the world position. It's like, unless, I think honestly, maybe technology could be our salvation if we could somehow fix, you know, the energy issues of the human being, you know, which is kind of bizarre, because it's as if, like, if we truly wanted world peace, like, if in the future there was a possibility for everybody to turn into machines and then they wouldn't have to worry about anything, right? As if, like, everybody's like an immortal machine, right? It's as if they don't have to worry about food, water, anything like that. They don't have to worry about pain. If all of these things go away, it's as if, sure, there's peace, you know? It's honestly very strange, you know? I've had moments where I've been like, okay, an advanced civilization is the final physical destination of a species on a rock in the middle of nowhere. And there's been moments where I felt like the advanced civilization, what's hindering it, what's stopping it, is in some sense the incompleteness of individuals, right? It's as if, like, you see something very cruel, right? And then suddenly your framework of a kind world kind of goes to the side, goes into the passenger seat, right? You see something kind, you know, your view of the cruelness of reality may go to the side, but eventually its hardships are there, you know? Something that I didn't upload, but I recorded this short video somewhere. I was saying, in some sense, I mean, I actually shared the point that it's like, unless we're immortal, it's as if, like, how can we be truly kind? You know, there's a sort of game of comparison going on. You know, so many people even look at capitalistic systems and they're like, yo, man, this is messed up. You know, it's causing us pain and suffering. But really, it's as if before capitalism, it's like, oh, the whole thing was there. Right? Really what it is, it's like there's 8 billion human beings required to be acknowledged and their inner lives to be acknowledged. And for now, the way reality is designed, it's like civilization is not coming to scope and scan and try to find people's potential. People have to actualize their potential, and then in a sort of spectrum or game, they're acknowledged, right? So it's kind of like this veil between our inner life and outer life. The more we identify with our inner life, it's like we're seeing greater visions of the world, and so of course there won't be a contentment, you know. As I was mentioning, you know, recently I've been seeing the Peaky Blinders. You know, it's like, I think after the series, like, my accent's gonna change, you know. But in it, you see that it's just the need for ambition. You know, it's like in the show, the main character has this, like, you know, legitimate business, but he wants expansion. You know, it's kind of like when a person gets a taste of power, they want more. You know, it's like they can't forget that taste, and so their appetite changes. So it's this really strange situation that we have to create either such an advanced civilization that is fulfilling 8 billion fulfilling the one major outer realms which we're all physically in, and it's also fulfilling the inner realms we're in, right? Like this is such a huge challenge that when I think about it, it's like, how are we going to overcome it? And at the same time, because it's dualistic reality, the nature of it, it's like it can't be either one. It can't be one side. It's kind of like we're living inside a yin yang symbol, and it's like the moment you think it's like, oh man, look at this. It's all, yin, or it's all yang. It's like the circle of the opposite side is in there. You may look at, oh my God, I think it was Thomas Aquinas or Marcus Aurelius, I think it was Thomas Aquinas. He says something like, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. And when you think about that, you're like, okay, there's no saints and sinners here. Thanks, Thomas Aquinas, But honestly, guys, I am a little jet lagged, so if there are, people listening who want to bring up topics, in the chat section, feel free to do that. Really, the whole point of me recording this episode is really to say that I've just noticed how the problem is way bigger than just a singular resolve for everyone. It's like we can't clone everybody's psychology so that it's like, oh man, everybody's loving each other in the same way. Like, it's impossible. At the same time, the moment there's comparison and there's contrast, it's like a person's contentment with what they have goes away. It's like, why do you think Ferrari has so many sales? One thing I do know, though, is that we haven't experienced a completely multidimensional outer realm. What I mean by that is, again, it's like everybody's trying to wear the same size of a shirt. Yet it's as if we need to create new clothes for the human species, new modalities of expressionism. Plus, we have such future challenges ahead. Like, think about it. Like, technology is going to have a major role, right? So it's like, not only is the human being, let's say, fighting off like the wilderness, wildlife. We've pretty much conquered it, but really, it's like there's still a challenge there. If a person's just left on an island, like, they got to fight the beasts, and they have to actually become a beast. This is what I've learned. Is that when there's beasts around, right, the person's, it's like that resonance of them comes out. So it's like when you're around beasts, it's like you mirror that and you become a beast yourself to kind of survive in the game. So one situation is, in some sense, fighting off the beasts of a natural level. Then in the future, it could be a sort of technological invasion of just the purity of the human mind. Right now, we're like, we're holding phones in our hands, in the future, it's as if, imagine there comes like terms and agreements and privacy policies, for, connecting technology to your brain. And even in the future, what else could there be? There could be, for example, like extraterrestrial invasion, right? Both inner and outer. So there's so many challenges ahead, and the human being wants to find peace. Like, in the inner realms, peace is instant. This is really the wisdom of yoga. Kabir, this sage, they asked him, how long does it take to get enlightened, man, and he's like half of an instant, as if it's a recognition of the nature of your attention, or the nature of how your consciousness is existing in an instant. And once you acknowledge that, there comes really bliss, right? That means, at least for me, I can say that the resolve or the sort of solace or peace I have found, or serenity I have found in my inner realms, is that first thing, I've acknowledged that thoughts come and go. Therefore, it's like a person doesn't have control over, all the things that they see internally. At the same time, it's like it becomes way more simpler when you look at reality existentially. It's just like as if, if somebody said peace was to exist, it's like everybody that exists is like experiencing peace instantly, right? But if somebody said peace, or the greater peace, or the peace of an advanced civilization, is just efficient advancement endlessly until the end of time. As if infinity is a wild horse and the human species is trying to catch up to it, right? Or is trying to ride this horse. Or perhaps, it could be that we just accept the unknown. That means, the human species reaches a point where it doesn't have expectations on anything. That would be a sort of instant peace. The other day I was thinking about something about the future, but not like the outer future. I was thinking about my own personal future. And I was thinking about, okay, let's say I reach the end of this lifetime. I reach a sort of point of exit. It's as if, what would attention do afterwards, right? And so if there's this view that we are just this eternal presence of attention, really it's coming to choice based on embodiment. It's as if eternity got bored, and so it limited itself to be able to experience the limitless again. This is like the traditional beyond spirituality. And life is strange, at some point, you think you're gonna, you feel like giving 10,000 talks, then at another moment you're like, you look at reality and you realize really words are an additional dimension of life. There's this concept in Vedanta called Turiya. I would recommend everybody to look this up. Turiya is known as the fourth state, and what it is or at least my understanding of it so far, and I feel I have had certain moments where I've experienced that state, and in those moments it's such a state of, it's a state where it's as if you're in a museum, but it's like the floor of the museum is a treadmill, and at the same time you can't touch anything in the museum. Right? It's more like there's states of how the human being can be, and there's states of what the human being can do. Turiya is a recognition of how you're being in all the states of manifestation you're in. So what that means is it's going through a filter of wondering about, okay, in the conscious waking state, how am I being? Or how is my being, right? And then you think of the dream state. These deep sleep is, so in the conscious waking state, you know, your physical, it's kind of like a dream where you have access to the details of the dream. In the dream state, I think for most people, you know, their dreams are automated, but there can be moments where the person has free will. I've had dreams where I've been able to move in the dream, and I've been able to react in the dream, which has been to some degree bizarre to me, right? As if in the dream state, I had the same sort of reaction as I would have in the conscious waking state. And it's kind of like the mind is overlaying another world upon the world. And so that's actually the nature of the mind. And what I'm trying to say is that in your dream state, you have a body, okay? But what happens to it is that the awareness stands, and how do I say it? This was years ago, actually. I had this dream where the way I woke up from the dream wasn't like, if a normal dream is like the person goes to bed, deep sleep, suddenly you wake up in the dream, and then you experience something in the dream, and then before you wake up, you get some deep sleep, you go, it's like the curtains are pulled, and then you open your eyes in your room. I remember I had this dream once where it's as if the second deep sleep wasn't there. What I mean by that is that straight from the dream state, I entered my bed. And it was honestly this feeling, this transition, that it's as if the mind is living again in its own way. And then when it comes to the conscious waking state, it's like the torch is in your hand, and if your other hand got burnt by the flame of the torch in the dream state, it's like you suddenly realize the other hand was holding it. It's like a person has one foot on one side of a portal and the other foot on another side of a portal. But anyways, back to this idea of Turiya, right? So it's an awareness inside. It's an awareness that is present unconditionally in your conscious waking state. It's again a presence that is there. It's how like the witness of life doesn't change, but its content does in the dream state. And now the deep sleep state is the most fascinating, because in deep sleep there is no psychology, but there is being. That's the biggest clue. As if human beings, every time they sleep, it's like we don't fear, it's like people fear death, but when they sleep, they're like, oh man, you know, it's like no worries, you know, I'll just, you know, disappear, or I'll be absent as a psychological entity for some time, and I'll wake up and no issues, you know. For me, this recognition that how I am aware of my conscious waking state, where I'm talking to you right now, how I have been aware in my dream states, and in deep sleep, there is no content, but there is still being. So it's as if a contentless being is the ultimate state of what is actually how intelligence is actually being, right? Which is another way of saying that it's like a film projection, and projection, I'm like, yeah, let's build a better film, advanced civilizations, you know. But really the nature of the projection is that it's like, it's not here. You know, perhaps this realm is designed in a way where its chaos and order is there to awaken us to how we are never actually inside chaos and order. It's kind of like saying, oh man, I gotta say this. I wrote something the other day, which was a sort of equation, right? And it was about the concept of God. I wrote God, and then I put an equal sign, and I put within, right? I was looking at how the theological perspective looks at truth and God. And so it's like this view that it's like a spark of the divine is within every living creature, right? So it's kind of saying like God is within, or like the soul is divine and it's within all things, right? And then I wrote God equals ultimate. So if a person has this view that reality is starting or has been caused from an ultimate position, and that ultimate state is within every being right now, it's as if by it's kind of like the ultimate is looking out through every person's eyes, right? But the ultimate cannot be content oriented. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say God equals within, God equals ultimate, the ultimate equals within, right? And how else I would say this would be, it's as if we are already at the ultimate state of being when it comes to the levels of being. But when it comes to levels of action and engagement and individualism of survival, it can't be ultimate. You know, it's kind of like life is like this strange riddle, right? Where in our absence, there's the ultimate fulfillment. It's kind of like when we become space, then there's the contentment with everything in that space. But if we're identifying with something specifically in this space, then there is endless ways of movement, right? It's as if, like, imagine there was a multidimensional being and they're like, all right, man, you get two choices. And the multidimensional being was like, really? Two choices? What are these? Right? And, you know, let's say this absolute voice says to this multidimensional being, you have the choice of being truth, or you have the choice of an endless expansion, endless and elusive expansion. It's pretty much like saying that eternity is at home, but infinity will never be. You know, when I say infinity, it's conditional to the finite, to that which is temporary. So I'm trying to say, what I meant by that equation is that what is looking through your eyes, or what is the presence of the space of awareness, is already at its most ultimate point. There is nowhere else it can go. It's like being is being. That means if a multidimensional being was like, man, I just want to be, it's like by existence, by the mere presence of our attention, it's like the ultimate in regards to that has been attained. You know, I remember seeing this video from Christopher Hitchens. Christopher Hitchens is like this epic speaker, and he's this, I don't know if I should categorize him as an existential atheist, but he pretty much goes to India, where Osho, this, like, you know, yogic enlightened figure in India, right? He goes to this place for Osho, and on the door it says, leave your mind outside, as if like in how in certain temples they're like, take your shoes off. Like, it was as if like it was saying like, leave your mind outside of the door. And Christopher Hitchens got angry. it's like that's when I knew I shouldn't go in there, right? But what I'm trying to say is pretty much that it's like the mind opens up the conditions of reality. The moment we're an individual, or we identify with an individual, it's like a character has entered the game, right? But if the person identifies as being the viewer of the character in the game, the viewer doesn't have a body to move. What I'm trying to say is that awareness is being freedom. That which is in awareness is endlessly changing. Therefore, the conditional cannot be content. Anyways, you know, I guess I'll share some personal things. You know, recently my attention's moving, you know, more from the inner realms to the outer realms. It's as if for some years I've been living as more a mind than a body, and now it's kind of like moving out. And really what it is, it's like, I mean, of course I can't, blame the world. When you look at the human brain, it's like this couple pound flesh, it has a limited processing power. So it's this strange situation where I'm kind of wondering, like, what will happen to this species? Is it going to identify with a presence of, is it going to identify with the presence of awareness, or is it going to identify, with the shape of personality? It's another way of saying, like, what is the purpose of a multiplayer online game? And its purpose is dependent on what is keeping you there. And you think about this world, they say like 4.5 billion years of evolution for creaturehood to emerge. What does that mean? That means how many different games have been played in existence, right? Some people center the meaning of life around the human being. They say free will is what really the implementation of free will, like it's like the starting point of awareness or choice. It's like, but to me, it's like the cosmos is so big that it's as if it's like existence is like another way of, it's like existence or the cosmos is saying, all right guys, you may even though your attention has started like a candle illuminating your immediate environment, but the scenario, the place you're in is so big, it's so vast that it's like it's designed for us not to see the edges. This does give strength to the materialistic perception, but it's as if when we're the small and the big, it's like we have, it's like, how do I say it? Sometimes when a person acknowledges they have no choice, that gives them peace. Sometimes even the concept of sacrifice, you see a lot of movies, right? But sacrifice is another way of saying you're getting rid of yourself. It's like due to a decision that's too hard to make. It's like the person doesn't want to make a decision, so they're like, I'd rather not exist, right? And the advancement of civilization is based on efficient decisions. Sometimes I think what we call the spirit is just how the whole moment is being. Certain schools of thought acknowledge that really the true essence of what this being, what this intelligent human being is that it's something that does not identify with time. It does not identify with space. It does not identify with energy or matter. Right? When you take that in, it's another way of saying, again, like the whole museum analogy. It's like when you don't touch anything, it's as if, look at how free, or let me say it in a different way. It's like when you don't hold anything in your hands are so free, right? Look at how much freedom you have. But in order to advance the outer realms, we not only have to hold reality, but it's like we have to create lineages of responsibility. And that's very difficult. Because every generation opens its eyes, There's been moments where I thought like, okay, this world is a decent place to, have children in. And then there's been moments where I'm like, if I have children, it's like, what kind of world are they entering? It's as if, is it easier to, in some sense, watch things break, or is it easier to build, right? And I think many people know the answer to that. To do something great in this realm, it has to be a sort of great energetic inspiration behind it, right? I mean, I could say, a person can say that if the energy, again, I'll go back to this point I was mentioning earlier, if the energy problems of the human being are solved, it could lead to a way more efficient civilization. That means it's like if physically, like everybody was okay, right? There was no, again, pain or suffering physically. The problems of advanced civilization would be limited to just psychological display, right? But at the same time, maybe we're surfers, you know. Maybe we gotta just surf the waves we're in, you know, find the best surfboard, and rather than reaching land, it's as if, like, you know, become part of the ocean. I'm talking about this metaphorically, not physically. So, without further ado, if there are questions, I'll be around right now for a couple minutes, or comments or things people want to bring to my attention. If not, I'll just be. You know, somebody emailed me that they've realized they're not like the person didn't want to be like they realized they can, it's like it's more valuable to be their true self rather than, you know, claiming masterhood of something, like being a master or something. And honestly, in a changing world, you know, it's like our beliefs, like they're never ultimate. You know what I'm saying? And when I say beliefs, I mean like conditional beliefs. A belief in God is kind of like your attention is going to the unconditional. It's like when a person believes the unconditional, that's not even belief anymore. It's like somebody, you know, they ask a person, you know, it's like, what's your beliefs, man? We're going to judge you. And the person's like, you know, my belief is that we're space, you know? And it's like you can neither touch it or you can neither break space, you know. It's like, who can deny space? You know? Really, that's what it is. Our minds are space. And content comes and goes. You know, a person can have this view that they're in a temporary world, you know, changing cosmos, or they could have this view that really what the soul is an unchanging moment witnessing change. And so when a person identifies with the unchanging, that means you have no shape, because shape changes in this realm. So all those people who have stories for their soul, you know, it's like, you know, it's like the mind has done its, the mind has proven itself a great trickster. When it comes to the presence of being, I'm talking about. I don't know if people can hear the music. I mean, I have headphones, but I don't know if the microphones capture the music. Anyways, thank you for listening, everybody. And, you know, sometimes in life we may feel like, you know, circumstances, you know, we might feel something is a dead end, but really there's so many angles to life that it's like, you know, only when you can say, you know, I guess poetically, it's like only when you're dead, the end is there, technically. You know, I would like to see, you know, different people trying to look at problems from different angles, you know, rather than being content with an answer. The idea of an advanced civilization, that is the greatest problem. What I would say it's the greatest problem to solve, you know. It's like, what do we do with how we're being while we're being, which we can do. We can do things while we're being. And you know, some people may be like, hey, Mr.Within, have I been looking at a table this whole time? Okay, nice. I was just reading the chat section. You know, the statement's coming to my mind. The soul of the world deserves a helping hand, but if its hand is not its own, it will choose to break. And honestly, this is what I've realized, that the inner life of people needs to be acknowledged. That's one of the, I guess, major issues towards an advanced civilization. Right? Because where is the potential of reality? It's behind your eyes, right? It's kind of like, let me say it this way. It's like, again, the example of there's one glass of water and there's 10 people looking at it. And if we just pause that frame and just be like, okay, so the situation is that behind every person's eyes, those 10 people, they each want to be acknowledged that they are thirsty, you know? And so it's kind of like, we're looking for an abundant civilization that acknowledges the individual and provides an efficient route for it to be able to reach for what its thirst, you know. You know, there's really two types of novelty. There's a novelty of the outer realms, which is how the environment changes. That's where novelty arises, you know. And then there's a sort of novelty is how the world changes behind your eyes before it changes in front of your eyes. And so if we could speed up how the world was changing behind people's eyes, it would be as if they would see so many different dimensions. It's honestly being able to see dimensions, I think it's actually a speed thing, right? That means imagine somebody, they live one lifetime, 100 years, but behind their eyes, you know, they have lived thousands and thousands of years in that one lifetime, you know? That's what it is. I think our minds are reaching for infinity and our bodies are trying to, you know, again, ride that horse. And so will we get to see how 8 billion points of attention shift reality? You know, it's like the greatest thing. You know, some people may think like, you know, concerts or, you know, certain events in the outer realms are fascinating, but to me it's like every moment that I'm just conscious like I'm existing. I'm like, whoa. It's like, am I existing right now? Is my attention present? Is my attention an event where it's like I am privately attending it behind my eyes, and in front of my eyes I am attending it in regards to a collective system, right? It's as if like if we were a multidimensional being, by having minds, it's like the lessons of the world are not external. It's another way of saying if a person just lives a purely physical life, it's like their contentment won't be there, you know. And if they in some sense don't advance their inner life, the contentment won't be there. It's kind of like an advanced it's like what concerns an advanced civilization is like actually two worlds advancing, right? And the inner realms needs to be faster than the outer realms. That's how it's making decisions, right? But if the inner realms had the same speed of the outer realms, there would be literally no free will. It's like in a dimension, reality is changing faster than another dimension. But anyways, you know, there's a lot of food for thought. It all depends on, you know, poetically, you know, the soul's roaring appetite. Anyways, thanks for listening, guys. And I pretty much say this in like 20 episodes, But a part of me feels like I don't know what's going to happen, how I'm going to change as a human being going forward. But on another level, I feel like, nature has an incredible precision, right? Even though, when I talk about an advanced civilization, really it's the role of free will, right? But at the same time, it's like when you put a seed in the soil, right? And the sun hits it and it sprouts. It's like nature's advancement is also very self-sustaining. That state, Turiya, could be a state where it's like if the person's inner realms, or let's say the content you view or the thoughts that come and go, if you don't touch them, right, then the emotion, I shouldn't say emotional, but like this deeper feeling within the person, it gets fulfilled by the outer realms. Kind of like, imagine somebody's like, let's say they're sick and they're like, I'm looking for medicine. What's the medicine? And they're drinking so many different types of medicine. And it's like the doctor's like, buddy, just get some rest. You don't need medicine, right? It could be one of those situations that, the species is just overloaded with the burden of thinking that it has to choose all the time. It could be the case. And it's pretty much, again, a speed thing. It's like if we slow down the inner realms, sure, a person may see the beauty of the outer realms differently. They may, it's like things might become more beautiful, but at the same time, if the outer realms goes faster than the inner realms, then the person feels like they're being dragged by life, right? They're being pulled around. Hafez has this next level kind of savage imagery in his poetry. He's the Sufi mystic from 700 years ago, and I'm going to share the imagery. I don't remember the exact lines, but he's saying something like, it's as if God or the divine, or that which he considers, his poetry calls the beloved. He said it's as if like the beloved grabbed him by the hair, and by his hair, and dragged him around. It's kind of intense and savage imagery, but but I think what he's trying to say is that it's like sometimes if the person is not engaging the outer realms, the outer realm pulls you in a way where eventually inner realizations come, right? And in previous talks, I remember talking about how really in the future, Earth is kind of destined to be a sort of multi-dimensional airport. Right, it's as if it's like we pilot our lives, or our lives get piloted by nature, right? And the yogi, those who acknowledge the divine will, that's kind of they're pretty much like, all right, universe or universal intelligence, you take the steering wheel. But it could be that there are rules to play, right? The free will has a specific role or task. It could be that evolution is a way of an entity based on suffering, in some sense reaching its sort of salvation, right? When I was saying that in the future, if we all become robots, like that could be a type of world peace, it's as if like that would be the salvation of no longer, you know what it is? I think because we're energy-based creatures, the less we do, the more we consider that as peace. But in reality, I think that I don't know, I just hope that a great energetic inspiration finds the species, that we become responsible for our multidimensional potential at least. Anyways, guys, this episode has gone longer than I expected. Thanks for listening, and much blessings. Namaste.